Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's adorable guest is Dr. Benita Varnado. Dr. V left her traditional career of almost 20 years in obstetrics and gynecology in 2021 to address the broken healthcare system, which currently puts the most resources in treating symptoms when it really needs to address the root cause of disease. She has now shifted her practice to lifestyle medicine, helping women and men realize that they have a choice and they can treat and reverse disease by living a life of purpose. I'm so excited for you to meet her. Let's go and say hello to Dr. V. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhige, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a Bioenergetics Practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Dr. V, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's exciting. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a board certified OBGYN, and I'm a board certified lifestyle medicine physician. I'm in North Carolina. I am passionate about women's health and allowing us to see a different way to live, which can ultimately lead to our overall health and happiness. And I am a mother of two and a wife, been married for 17 years, and I'm living the dream. And we'll talk more about that, but I'm living the dream.
Wow, that's great. Not everybody can say that. So I kind of want to back up a little bit. And then I really want to touch on how you kind of segued from just traditional OBGYN work into the secondary part. Okay. So how long have you been a doctor? What led you to be an OBGYN?
Great story. I am the daughter of a nurse, a pediatric nurse, and a dentist, and they were both in the medical field. My mother had a set of books that she hid under her nightstand. You know, those books where, you know, your period's going to come and breast development, and this is where babies come from. And I found it, and it was almost like it was porn. Like I would sneak and read it. And when I learned about like what my body was going to do and how babies are developed, and this happens all the time without any input from us, I just thought it was fascinating. And so I always wanted to be an OBGYN. I dabbled maybe in psychiatry, maybe primary care, but I wanted to be a physician. And so I graduated medical school in 2002. And after that, I did 4 years of an OBGYN residency. So I've been in private practice since 2006. And I retired last year, 2021, ready to make the pivot.
Wow. Why'd you well, first of all, what was your favorite thing about being an OBGYN?
Oh, One thing that my patients always said about me is that I made them feel comfortable. It was like they were talking to their girlfriend. And I love the education part and connecting. And I would always say, you don't have to live like this. Like, what are you doing? You don't have to live like this. So I just loved helping women have a better standard for life. I loved
Nice. Nice. And
it.
now
I
you
still do.
retired. You're so young. Why did you retire? What are you doing now?
So yeah, you're really catching me early in the game. And I promise to come back in a year or two when I have it all figured out. But really what I want to do is what I feel is lacking in healthcare is that we're really not treating the root cause of disease. And we're not investing our resources into empowering our patients. And honestly, the way the system is set up, that's really hard to do. And there's a movement of healthcare providers who are traditionally trained, who are now seeing that we need to head in that direction. And we have evidence. We have evidence that shows that it works and it's more affordable and it's more sustainable. Mm-hmm. And so that's really where I'm going. But at the same time, I also want to help others that are burned out. I'm going to start focusing on physicians primarily, but I think that with COVID, you see that a lot of people had an epiphany and saw that they weren't living the lives that they wanted to live. So I am leaning into that space, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done. And so I'm excited about it.
That's fantastic. I 100% agree with you. And so are you looking at functional medicine, naturopath, somewhere in between?
So there's an actual branch of medicine now. It's lifestyle medicine. And so it is really focused on, 6 pillars of health. So that's nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, relationships, and avoiding risky substances. And so helping patients around those 6 pillars can either reverse the disease, manage the disease, and absolutely, which is where my heart is prevent disease. And so not saying that we don't need medicine. I'm not saying that, y'all. What I'm saying is that let's focus on the root cause. You can do the medicine, but hopefully if there's a way to eliminate that, then that's what we want to do.
Awesome. Can we talk about those 6 pillars? That just charges me up. Okay.
Sure.
Which one do you want to start with?
Oh gosh. You can pick. I'll say diet. That's one that I think well, we could do the whole show on that one. But yeah, nutrition. Nutrition. I don't want to say diet, nutrition.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about you, because based on all of your experience and everything, what do you like to eat?
Oh, wow. Okay. So when we talk about what do I like to eat and how I got there, there's a change in the taste buds that has to happen. Mm-hmm. So I leaned in really hard to plant-based. And that really wasn't sustainable for me. I'm a Black woman from North Carolina. We have Sunday dinners, and my family, they weren't eating plant-based. So I'm into gardening now. And so I like eating fresh fruits and vegetables. So I'm looking at it as adding these things in and eating more of it. So I love my green peppers. I just put in collards in the garden a few weeks ago. Nothing better than fresh vegetables from the garden. And they taste better and they taste sweeter too. Mm-hmm. Those are my favorites.
I live on 5 acres. So we have 80 fruit trees and we have a massive garden. My favorite thing to grow is, do you know what dinosaur kale is?
Yes. Lacinato. Yes. I
do.
That
is my favorite. It grows like a bush and you can just trim it. And oh gosh, I love that
and
stuff.
And it comes back and you'll clip that, go in, make your green smoothie. And I feel like I'm doing something. I feel like I'm like Martha Stewart.
Oh, that's like my new favorite. I love that one.
Yeah.
Okay, but I love it. Honestly, my husband is a landscaper, and I always say, you need to start doing farmscaping for people, meaning instead of wasting water growing ornamentals or lawn, have them grow their own food. I think that could be a fabulous movement, because then you can grow organic. You can actually do a better crop rotation than what you're getting, because we know our
Yes.
food isn't as nutritious as it used to be. So, but I also I mostly work with women in their 50s or older. And I
Mhm.
believe that, quality protein is super important so that we
Mhm.
can maintain and increase muscle mass,
Muscle mass. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Mhm.
but
Mhm.
most protein out there, I believe, is not high quality.
Wow. I think if we peel back the layers, that we see that not only for protein, but across the board for all of the food we eat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary part. That's the real scary part, that some of these things that we're eating are contributing to disease.
Yep. Corn, wheat, and soy are the biggest genetically modified crops. And those are what you find in, like, there's a quote, I can't remember who said it. It could be Michael Pollan, but it says, eat more leaves and peels and less wrappers and boxes.
And boxes, right, right. And I think this is when I learned that we're going to have to take care of ourselves. One of my sweet patients, she saved all of the seeds from her produce that she got from the grocery store. So when I started my garden, I used her seeds and nothing grew. Nothing grew. I was so, and I started doing research. They have modified it. I am not making this up. They have modified it so that the food at the grocery store does not reproduce. It does not reproduce.
Why would they do that? Okay, that's a whole can of worms.
I'm not going there. There's a whole nother reason that you would do that. But yeah, and I went to the garden center and I said, I don't know what happened, and that's when they shared that they are modified. So we don't know what we're eating. We don't know
I'll bet you it's because they want you to buy the seeds from a certain company, so that they can increase that revenue. That probably has something to do with it. But okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay, let's move on. Since we were talking about muscle mass, let's talk about exercise.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just came back from St. Lucia. I normally have a big, huge curly afro, but I've got braids. But I looked at how they live. So I'm Black. In America, the statistic is that 80% of Black women are either overweight or obese. St. Lucia is predominantly people of color. They weren't obese. And part of that is the way they live. They walk everywhere, right? They walk everywhere. They eat fresh fruits and vegetables. They have lots of hills. Taking care of their land is just natural physical activity. And so what I'm trying to get people, yes, I like Pilates. I do Pilates. I can go to a studio. But the work that I do in my garden and lifting and hauling things, that's also physical activity. And I'm also at the same time doing something that I enjoy. So I'm a big proponent. You are right on it. As a gynecologist, I have that 40-year-old conversation. I'm saying, now that you're in your 40s, you potentially going to start losing muscle mass, and you need to do some resistance. And so that can be formal, but really, for some, it might just need to be increased physical activity, whatever that looks like for you.
At least to start with, yeah.
To get
to get moving, because honestly, here's a scary fact for you. My mom, 5 years ago, I think, or 6 years ago, was diagnosed with accelerated memory loss. Okay. And her body has atrophied a lot. And all I said to her, Mom, you just need to keep moving, walking, doing sit stands. Like I showed her, like doing push-ups up against your counter, doing just basic movement. There was a time she was in a wheelchair because she just wouldn't do anything. And she's only 70, 78.
Wow.
So it's like, there's a little lady that lives by me. I live right across the street from a mountain, and she's 75 and she walks to the top. It's like 2 miles straight up. And she goes every day. Oh, just to compare,
every day. And what I will tell you is that I completed a half marathon, my first, in December of 2021. Thank you. I was so proud of myself, and I was focusing on trying to run the whole thing. And when I got out there, I realized people were just walking. They were just walking. They were walking and they passed me and they finished before me. And so what I think is sometimes we make exercise and this whole lifestyle piece look so big and unattainable. All you need to start is just put on some tennis shoes and just go for a walk. That's the best exercise. It's low impact, and you can grade it up. You can scale up. And you can really make a difference. You can really make a difference for your health. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple to start with, for sure.
And getting that wonderful vitamin D from the sun.
Yes.
And the fresh air.
And the fresh air. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are studies, I'm sorry to cut you off. There are studies to show that being outside in nature helps with your health and wellness and your mental health in particular. So yes. Yesterday, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, you just added to that for my mental health, every Wednesday, unless it's raining or absolutely freezing, I go to the beach and I just go and walk barefoot for an hour, 30 minutes up and back. And I sit and meditate and pray and talk to God. And it is like my favorite thing in the world. Like, I just love doing that.
So that's your medicine. That's your medicine. That's lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's lifestyle. But there are pills that could also help, to make you feel calm and relaxed. But in order to do what you're doing, Tracy, your lifestyle has to be different. Like, okay, if you work 8 to 5 and you got to pick up kids, walking to the beach and getting your toes in the sand seems really unattainable. So I just looking at other cultures, they don't live like we live. And I think we're seeing with COVID, we need to shift in that way. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And everybody gets to pick their own thing, right? Like, that's just my thing. Because I don't live too far. It's like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But everybody can find, like, my son lives in Manhattan. He lives in the city. He loves going to the park. He used to live in Brooklyn and go to Prospect Park, and send me pictures of swans and, just beautiful nature. But I think that everybody can find their own Zen moment place, right? Their own thing. So
absolutely.
Okay, so walking is great. Doing a little something every day, Pilates. Okay, I'm going to have a bragging moment. Today, I'm 56 and I hit
really?
Yeah. And I hit a new PR on my deadlift, 240. So I just want to say, you're not too old and it's never too late.
Whoa. That's awesome. And your bone density is probably amazing too, right?
I haven't had it checked in a long time because I do the stuff I'm supposed to do, but
yeah.
Anyways, what I would like to encourage is mobility, flexibility, strength, cardio, and just walking, having a balanced fitness. Because I used to be a runner, right? And women that want to lose weight, which is like most women, they do this because they want to lose weight. When you run too much, you actually gain weight because you're hungrier and you've increased your cortisol.
Tracy, where were you when I was training? Oh my God, I could not figure that out. I'm like, I'm running more than I ever have. And yes, I was hungry and I was trying to be a plant-based runner. And so but I was starving, I was so hungry. Oh my gosh. Tell us more. I know you've talked about that, about the cortisol levels, but go ahead.
Well, what happens
Wow.
is like you train to run like an event. Like I used to do half marathons
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And most people, they say, oh, I'm going to run a marathon so I can lose 10 pounds. Just like, that's a common thing I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
But then you end up being more hungry because you're spending so much physical activity, just increased cortisol levels. So it's kind of crazy. And plus trying to do it plant-based for me personally, and I've actually had Dr. Minkoff, Dr. David Minkoff on the show. He was
Mm-hmm.
he's 70s and he's like an Iron Man and he was not healing. Like you would really dig him, I think. He lives kind of by you, Florida. I guess it's kind of by you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but he found out because he was plant-based also at that time that his body wasn't repairing because he wasn't getting all the essential amino acids. So his gut microbiome wasn't healing.
Mm. Mm.
Crazy, right?
Was he doing plant-based protein?
Yeah. He was an
Oh,
Iron
wow.
Man.
Wow.
So he had to switch things up, but anyway, that was kind of interesting. So I do think you need to have your essential amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's pillar 3?
Let's see. What did we talk about? We talked about nutrition. We talked about exercise, sleep, sleep,
Ooh.
sleep, 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 sleep. And this is the one I think as a physician, I got the least of. Like I didn't get a lot of sleep. And when you realize that getting sleep is like putting your dishes in the dishwasher and rinsing everything off so it can get clean, and you're kind of rebooting your computer, and weight, right? It contributes to weight gain as well. I just it makes me sad that we don't really see sleep as really a healthy component of a healthy lifestyle. We're learning more now, but it's so crucial. It's so crucial in all of that. Your mood relies on enough sleep. Relationships. You're just not at your best when you're tired. You're just
Mhm.
not. And with the mental stress that we have already, we need to protect our minds and our brains as much as possible.
Yeah. Why weren't you sleeping, doctor?
Okay, so this I'm gonna give y'all a little insight. This is the tea. Okay, so in the mornings before I go see my patient, who's my first patient's at 8:30. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I have to go to the hospital. So I have to be at the hospital, right? At least by 7:30, sometimes 7:38. The kids have to get to school, right? So you got to help the kids get up. You have to get breakfast ready, which I'm not going to sit here and say I did that all the time. But then you got to round and get to the hospital early. You do a whole day of work. Then you have to round after the hospital. And then if you're on call, you might be up at night. If I'm not on call, then I even hate to admit it. I was up till 1:00 in the morning doing my notes from the day of the patients that I'd seen, because you type it into the system. And I mean, literally the only thing that saved me, and this is so embarrassing, but the system would reboot. I think it reboots at 1:30 in the morning. And that was it. I had to get off because it would reboot. And that's the only way that I would get sleep. Yes, Dr. V is not perfect. There were things that I could do as far as time management and templates and all of those things. But there are a lot of physicians that don't leave the office until 9:30 every day because they're finishing up their work. Because you got to return calls from your patients. You've got to, answer emails. And there's a lot that goes into taking care of people. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. but it's not the most efficient system. And I think there are a lot of things that we can do to help providers who are in that service.
No wonder you retired. That's not sustainable.
Yeah. And I know people who were better at it, and they were still having a tough time. Like, I want to talk to my patients. I don't want to sit there typing, I want to talk, and I want to, I really want to be focused on them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really important thing, because how can a caregiver give proper care if they're not cared for, right? So that system's definitely broken.
Yeah. And I'm a part of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And that's one of their pillars, that we have got to take care of ourselves, and we've got to incorporate these lifestyle elements, because then we will tell our patients about it. It's hard to tell them about something that you're not doing, although we do it a lot, but our actions and our lifestyle can help sway the patient and introduce them to these behaviors more than our words sometimes. Yeah.
I think sleep is important. I have an Aura ring, and it tracks my sleep, and it gives me a rating every day.
I've listened to your podcast, and I heard you say that, and I don't wear any jewelry except my Apple Watch, and it has to be recharged. And I was looking at the Aura ring, and I love that. I love that. I'm thinking about that. Do you like it a lot?
I do. And I don't have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone, but I don't want my mojo ruined with text messages or emails or notifications. I don't want it buzzing. So I don't wear a watch, but I do like this, because then I really focus on quality sleep, heart rate variability, all those good indicators of how I'm progressing. Good. So we have sleep. What's next? Number 4.
So we have eliminating risky substances. Eliminating risky substances. And this is one we saw a lot during COVID. Very early on in the pandemic, when we were shut down, I was getting articles that, people are drinking more. And I started asking my patients, and a few of them I had to refer, to get help to come off of alcohol. That one's, I guess, easiest for people to understand, because it's most available and is socially acceptable. But what we find is sometimes we use risky substances to self-medicate and to help us cope. And so we know that can lead to poor outcomes for our physical health. It also leaves our mental health untreated and unaddressed. And if an addiction develops, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that can really destroy your life, and ultimately can kill.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line, between what's healthy for your heart, based on, Walter Willett's 40-year, 50-year study or whatever, and crossing that boundary, so.
Right. So if you are drinking, let's just take alcohol. And the question I would ask, are we drinking for pleasure, or does this serve a purpose for you? And some people were using it to go to sleep. And the minute you start to see this as your drug, that's when you're in dangerous territory. Nothing wrong with having a glass of wine with your meal, but when you need it to calm your nerves, when you need it to sleep, that's when you need to pay attention and see where you are mentally.
And like food, wine. Okay, so I love wine. I live on a wine trail. But like food, do you know how many chemicals they're allowed to put into wine? Like, I want to say 75 different chemicals are allowed to go into wine manufacturing without being on the label. So a better way, like if a person's going to drink wine, I mean, I don't think wine's bad. Jesus turned water into wine. It was his first miracle. I want to know how he did that.
I know, right? Keep the party going.
How did he do that? but wine quality matters. I mean, like, so I
Wow.
prefer like European wines, natural wines, because they don't add chemicals to their stuff like we do.
Wow.
You know, they will not import our meat, our dairy. A lot of our food has to be reformulated to import to Europe or to export to Europe.
Right. Right.
Because they
Yep.
won't take it. And it includes
Yes.
wine. So if you're
Right.
going to drink wine, do Italian, French, anything that's not from the US, unless it's a boutique winery. And then you want to ask them what's in it, you know, because
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
something to think
Yeah,
about.
they call our food Frankenstein food. No, see, I've talked with people and read about that. They call it Frankenstein food, and our diet, they call it the SAD diet, the
Mm,
standard American diet. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. It is sad. But that is what is allowed on our food labels. Like when COVID first hit,
Right.
Lucky Charms said immune boosting on the box. It said immune boosting. There's nothing immune boosting about a box of sugar cereal. So that's interesting. They're allowed to do that.
So this is why I love what you're doing, because there's so many conflicting messages for people now, that there needs to be a loud voice that says this is the truth and this is not, and creating a space where people can trust you and get good sound information that will ultimately help heal and restore is very, very important. Very
And
important.
you know, with what you're doing, so I just had this epiphany. So in California, there's a lot of obese children that we see. And I believe that moms, like I did, they just do the best they know how and how they were raised typically, right? And so I believe that maybe perhaps when a woman is pregnant is the best time to teach them about nutrition for their unborn child, as well as for their children to come, so that they don't feed them the standard kid cuisine. I did that. I didn't know what I didn't know, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
that might be like a good niche that you can think about.
It starts with breastfeeding, though. And I know everybody can't breastfeed, but that is the best diet for your baby. It's the
Right.
best diet. But again, if you have to return to work in 6 weeks and you don't have an adequate place to pump or adequate time, then it becomes difficult. I mean, other countries, women get a year off.
Yeah.
They get a year off. And I, with my second child, I started, what was it called? The baby bullet. I started making her baby food. But I had time, I had time, I had some knowledge. But it was just, we have to do better, as far as, I think we know what we want, but creating space in our lives to have what we want, because the knowledge is there, and my patients, they know that, and they're asking for it. They're asking for it.
Great choice of words, creating space. Love that.
Mhm.
Because they will create space for the things that are important to them.
Yes.
We all do.
Yes. We do it. We absolutely do. We absolutely do. Exactly.
And I'm sure you're aware of this, but it actually starts before that. For the health of a newborn, is the vaginal birth gives them all those good microbiome, all that good bacteria for the baby's gut microbiome.
Absolutely. Yep.
I didn't know about that either. Okay.
Yep.
So we've done fitness, nutrition, sleep, avoid toxic substances. What's next?
Okay. Stress management.
Okay. How do
Stress
you do that?
And that looks different for everybody. For everybody. I will speak for myself. One thing that I did not manage well was getting my notes done in an efficient, in a timely manner. So I had to seek out services. I asked for help. That's number one. I asked for help, and I got a medical scribe, someone that was in the computer miles away, but she was listening in and she would type everything. So I could connect with my patient, which is what I enjoyed, but also I could have my notes done at the end of the day so I could come home to my family and not have that playing in the background. So it's going to look different for everybody, but definitely asking for help. It took me years to realize that my system was broken. My system was broken. And so, exercise definitely helps with that, having some quiet time, but really looking at your life and seeing what's causing you undue stress. Boundaries was another one. Dr. V is bad about saying yes, 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 because I want to help and oh, I love you. But that boundaries piece was huge for me. And once I got comfortable with that, that opened the door for me to transition, because part of my stress was I was staying in an environment that I love, but wasn't serving me. And so telling my partners, hey, I'm really drowning here. Like I am drowning. That was the first step for me.
Good for you to recognize it and see it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So stress management, I would like to add to that. Well, you basically alluded to it, that if there's anything in your environment, whether it's relationships or a job or anything, the first step is always to remove yourself from a situation. Just put up that wall, because, and all the other things I find, grounding. I love grounding. Do you do any of that?
I do not. You
know what it is?
I've heard about it. Yes.
Okay. I got a book for you to read. It's called Earthing. This is going to help you ginormously. You're going to love it.
All right. Earthing.
So think about this. You know what a free radical is, right? So by earthing, grounding, it's basically your feet on the earth. Okay. Grass, sand, dirt, whatever. Or you can even buy a grounding pad for your bed and just plug it into the outlet. It's flooding your body with electrons. So what do those electrons do? They pair up with those free radicals.
The free radicals.
Now it's a healthy cell. Decreases inflammation, decreases pain, loads of other information. But I think that that would be something you would enjoy.
It sounds like definitely something I need. No question about it.
It will improve your sleep. It will help. I had a grounding mat for a couple years before I realized it was installed wrong. So I finally got it fixed, and this shoulder had like stickiness to it. Like it was like painful and sticky. My husband too, but now it's gone. And I swear it's that mat.
Wow. Well, that's the one thing that I am opening my eyes to, other ways to heal. I have a medical degree, an MD, and we were taught one way. And what I am realizing is there's more than one way to heal the body. And so really trying to get outside of my training and just really be open to the other modalities out there is actually exciting. It's exciting. I can't say I'm not a little skeptical sometimes, but when you hear stories like that, it does kind of make you wonder, was I taught every way? No, I wasn't, so thank you for sharing that earthing.
I learn a lot of stuff because my mind is really open and I love to learn, but this is my new favorite thing that I can practice effortlessly, because I have two desks. At my other desk, I have a grounding mat underneath. So when I'm sitting, I have my bare feet on it, and then I have it in my bed. So for 8 hours on average a night, I'm grounding.
You're grounding.
So, and when you read the book, it's called Earthing, which is a synonym. It explains like our ancestors, and they used to walk barefoot. And they have studies where they show, what are those scans called that they light up in color?
You
like
talking
a,
about like a PET scan or CT scan?
it's different. It's like a radiography or something like that. And you can see
Okay.
the hot spots, the heat, thermogram.
Okay. There you go. Because
Yeah,
it's looking at heat. Okay.
yeah, it will show like the hot spots in somebody that has inflammation or pain in a certain area. Maybe it's from an injury or something else in their body. And you can see after 30 minutes of grounding how the color changes
Wow.
significantly.
Wow. Yeah. So thermogram, that's not something that we do. I do know, I believe that's a new modality to detect breast cancer. They're using some of that technology that I've seen some patients choose outside of a traditional mammography. I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently and for its accuracy, but yeah, I'm open
Yeah.
to it. I'm open.
I'm excited for you. I'm kind of like envious. I wish I was like a doctor doing what you're doing. Okay, so we've hit that. We've hit 5. What are the other 2?
So there's 6 total. So the last one is relationships, connection, which we knew this before. We knew loneliness and isolation was a problem, but didn't COVID just highlight how important it was to be connected to one another?
Mm-hmm.
And there's science behind it. But even outside of the science, it just feels good. It just feels good to be in community with other people. Community is, or relationship and connection is one of the pillars, but we're trying to kind of, in that there's positive psychology. And so I think that might become in a few years the 7th pillar. But, you know, a gratitude practice, meditation, centering, watching your words and your language, getting meaning in your life, accomplishment, positive relationships around you, all of that helps to contribute to your inner self and your spirit.
Mm-hmm. And you know, they did a study a couple years ago that they asked people, like, what is the common or the most important or significant factor that helps people age well into their 90s and past?
Mm-hmm.
And it is relationships, close relationship
Yep.
with family and friends, and strong sense of community.
Yep. I had a patient who, she lived in Africa, and she brought her mother over, who was like in her 80s. And she worked all day. So she was going to leave her mother at home by herself. And her mother, she started to deteriorate. And she was used to being in the village with the other elder women. And so she was at home by herself. I mean, and she said it was a matter of months, weeks to months, where she just saw her decline. I can't say enough about, again, everybody wants a pill to fix things, but we just have to get back to the basics. You know, when our ancestors were walking barefoot, like you said, they lived in tribes, they lived together. And that makes all the difference. That makes all the difference.
So what did your patient do with her mom? Did she keep her here or did she send her back?
No, she sent her back.
Good girl.
She sent her back. And she went with her, and she was there for a month. But it surprised me that she was so surprised at what happened. I mean, they have a whole ritual. I mean, I said, well, what does she normally do? And she said, I mean, her whole life was intertwined with these other women and the children who look up to the elders. She has a whole identity that you've removed from her. So yeah, I'm, you know, COVID was a very scary time, but we definitely have learned a lot of lessons, and I'm thankful for it, because that's really what pushed me over the edge, because, you know, over the edge to take the leap. But it was just, you know, we shortened our hours, and I got to spend more time with my family. And we were playing board games and having fun and watching movies. And that's just, we didn't do that before. And that's when I realized I wanted more of that in my life, because that's really what matters. On your deathbed, I'm not going to be talking about, all the surgeries and deliveries I had. I'm going to be talking about my family. Yep.
Yeah. That is, how old are your children?
My son is 15 and my daughter's 11.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And my daughter's, I call her the second mom. So she's not really 11.
Oh, I get it. That's cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I love him. And my son he's 2 more years and he's going to college. So this time is really valuable to me.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And I think you made a wise choice. So are you now seeing patients elsewhere, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The transitional time, I did what we call locum tenens. And actually, I was kind of like a substitute doctor filling in where they needed me. And now I'm transitioning into coaching. So I'm coaching other physicians who are burned out and who need to design their life a little bit differently to help their health and wellness. I have a podcast. I'm on Facebook. And so I'm also trying to reach the masses of women to just really push this lifestyle piece and how important it is.
Oh, cool. Awesome. What's your
Yeah.
podcast called?
Office Visits with Dr. V.
So do you
Office
take
Visits with Dr. V.
questions, or how do you run? What's your format?
That's so funny. No, I don't take questions. It's just an audio podcast. I have guests. So initially I started it for my patients because I wanted to educate them, but I didn't feel like I had enough time during the visits. And so I would say, I have this podcast, go listen to episode whatever, and you can hear more about it from me directly. And then I started getting some guests and, sharing, outside of my scope, just so that we could contribute to the overall health and wellness of women. So it's been fun.
That was a smart idea. That is such a smart idea, how you started that for your patients.
Yeah, because women were paying, it started with cervical mucus. That's what started it all. Because it was a common appointment that women would make. And I would just tell them, oh, this is normal. This is actually normal. And I would show them, and I'm like, this is what your cervix is supposed to make. And I was just like, if they knew that that was normal, they would have saved their money and their time. But nobody taught us about those things. So yeah, I honestly, that was the segue which got me here today, honestly, starting that podcast for sure.
Awesome.
No doubts. Yeah.
That is fabulous. That's funny that that's what started. And then they get older and then that goes away. Enjoy it while it's here.
I know, right? I know. It's a blessing and a curse.
Oh, that's hilarious. You are so adorable. So is there any parting words of wisdom that you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, my message is I'm trying to empower, I'll say women, but if men you're listening to, this is for you. I'm empowering them to really take their health seriously. And the only way I can say it is the cavalry ain't coming. It's like you're going to have to, the systems that we lean on to help us, we're pulling back the curtain and realizing that, maybe they're not the best for us. The wine has 75 different chemicals that aren't good for us. So we're going to have to learn more, and we're going to have to do more to kind of really, really protect the temple that we have. And I think we can do that in a very simple way, with those pillars of health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. I don't think you missed anything. All of the different healthy habit tips that I say are interwoven.
Yeah.
Especially when you said purpose. That's another big thing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Awesome. And then how can people find you? What's your website? Are you on social?
Definitely on social. I'm on Instagram and Facebook under Office Visits with Dr. V. I do a Facebook Live every Saturday, 52 Saturdays with Dr. V plus Craig. That's my husband. and we have some healthy conversation every Saturday at 9:00. I also have a website, and it's Office Visits with drv.com. So I am very accessible.
How cute. Your husband does your Facebook Lives with you?
Well, yes. So it started 2021 that I was just going to walk every Saturday at 9:00 and just talk. And so my husband started joining me, like the first 2 or 3 sessions in, he started joining me. And it was 52 Saturdays with Dr. V, but since he was there, I put plus Craig. And so he comes on and says, hey, and and then he leaves me in the dust.
That is super sweet. What a guy.
Yeah.
What a
He's
guy.
a great guy. He's a great guy. Absolutely.
Well, and awesome that he's supporting you on your new journey. So kudos to Craig.
Kudos to Craig. Shout out to Craig.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. You are adorable. And I love where you're going with your new venture.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And thank you again for inviting me and for being a model of what can be done when we really, step outside of the box and live our purpose, for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to Dr. V as much as I did. She is so awesome. So make sure you check her out at Office Visits with Dr. V on Facebook and on Instagram. And for complete show notes, including live links, head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.